these marketplaces, they're only interested in making money from themselves and taking money out of the sellers' pockets.
People want that human experience. It makes you feel like you're having a two-way conversation. The genesis of comment, like, and share.
India only got its independence in 1947. It's not a fair comparison when you compare it to the West.
6 years later, you can count on one hand the number of A-list Bollywood actors who she hasn't styled.
There are no good quality products for men in India.
Bollywood drives this entire culture. Every product is endorsed by a celebrity.
How did you sort of overcome some of the cultural challenges you might have faced?
I've been here 16 years. I will always consider myself a guest in this country.
Growing and building the business is to show my daughter that anything's possible. You got to believe in yourself.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Everyday Empires podcast. I have the wonderful Mike and Sanskruti with me. Thank you very much for your time. Mike is the co-founder of MissMalini, and Sanskruti, your business is focused on jewelry. But first, Mike, talk to me about MissMalini. What was the journey with that like?
Yeah, sure. I think it fits really good with Everyday Empires because it just kind of happened one day. I landed in India with no real plans other than let's do some cool stuff. And that was in 2009, and met one of my very good friends, but my first friend here, Malini Agarwal, which the brand MissMalini is named after. And she was a local celebrity with ambition to build something big, and that fit in with what I like to do, which is just build and create value and do things that haven't been done before. So we set out to build a digital first media platform and network in India with kind of Western ideals and attention for quality and grammar and integrity and reporting, even if it was entertainment, not as serious as, news or politics, but we wanted to do it right and do it well. And that eventually it took off. As a lot of people know, the brand is synonymous with entertainment and Bollywood and gossip, but not the sleazy tabloidy kind of gossip. And that grew into a full service marketing agency, talent agency, production house, and it's been sold and resold a few times since then. So that's the legacy that we've left behind. And I'm not with MissMalini currently, but we're still, it's still our baby. We still advise the owners from time to time, and proud of what we were able to accomplish.
Absolutely, and you should be. And to say it's synonymous with some of the terms that you're saying. I mean, we know people know that MissMalini is going huge. So I'm looking forward to understanding a little bit more about your journey. But I've got the lovely Sanskruti sitting next to you, of course. Now, to say that you have a business in jewelry seems to undersell all the amazing things that you've been doing. So please tell us a little bit more.
Well, thank you for having us. My journey started coming to India in about 2012. And prior to that, I was actually born into a fine jewelry family. So I've been around luxury and fine jewelry my whole life. I started my career in the fashion industry in New York City, and then I moved to Geneva, Switzerland, and helped run a very small artisanal luxury watch brand called Speak Marin. That's where I learned the beautiful aspects of luxury timepieces and the manufacturing and high quality materials that are used. So lo and behold, I wanted to come to Mumbai and go on an adventure and see what India was all about. And I always had an interest of bringing high quality fashion brands, accessory brands, jewelry brands into developing markets. So here we are in India in 2012. And my dad, who was from the fine jewelry business, actually told me about this brand called INOX. And I looked them up. I saw their pieces, took a meeting with the owners of the brand, and they use the same materials as the luxury timepieces and use the same machines. So I was sold on this, and I asked them if I could get the exclusive distribution for India. And they were like, okay, cool. Like, you're from the United States. We're from the United States. It's culturally, we're compatible, and you are passionate about this. And my time in Switzerland helped me appreciate
Mm.
the time and the effort that goes into luxury timepieces. So when I saw a jewelry brand and I said, I'd love to position this for the male audience in India, because I saw a gaping hole in the market, that there are no good quality products for men in India, for something that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, because guys may not want to invest in such a massive gold heavy piece
Mm.
you know so here we are, and we opened up our first flagship store in 2023 in Bandra, West Mumbai. And we've been very grateful for the stylists who've helped us along the way, because that gave us a tremendous amount of exposure to celebrities. And a lot of our pieces are used in very popular Bollywood movies and a bunch of Netflix and Amazon series as well.
As you said it, it's probably the biggest commonality between two very different businesses.
Mm.
Two people that weren't living here, came here and just saw a gap and just kind of aimed for the gap.
The reason why I love talking to successful people so much is because you make things sound so easy. I mean, that's Sanskruti, as you said. I just spoke to them about having the exclusive rights to one of the largest countries in the world of 1.3 billion people, and they just gave it to me, and it was great. So, but but that process of course, they had to buy into you as a person, your background, your expertise. Of course, your family were connected within that industry, so they wanted to understand that a little bit more. But you created this background for yourself to then put yourself out there to say, yes, you can give me the exclusive rights because I'm me. What was that process like?
I guess that just comes to your confidence, your grit, excitement, passion.
Mm.
My time in Switzerland really opened up my eyes to a world of possibility, because prior to that, I was working with Donna Karan, Dolce and Gabbana. So I was looking at a very skewed female centric business.
Mm.
Of course, I did look at the male side as well.
Mm.
And even then, I felt like it was still underserved, because there just aren't that many options. And I mean, we're also talking about early 2000s.
Yes.
So it was a very different landscape than what we're seeing in terms of fashion and trends today. So I'm seeing that post COVID is really when I see like the trends really opening up for men also who like to express themselves.
Mm.
But in terms of why they gave it to me and stuff, I guess it
Yeah,
really doesn't.
optimism and a
Yeah,
cheery disposition goes a
it
long way.
does. It
Mm.
does. You got to believe in yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the key hallmarks of a good business person, right? Is that they believe in themselves, that they have a level of confidence, that they're willing to put themselves out there. And sometimes you get rejected and people say no, and sometimes people say yes, but there's a percentage success rate, right? If you do something 100 times, X% of that you'll get a yes. So you just got to keep doing it and achieve a success rate, and as you get better, that rate improves.
That's not so fun when that rate's like 1 or 2%, but yeah.
Absolutely. But
That's what it was when we started trying to sell digital marketing
Mm.
assets to India, which was dominated by print and newspapers and television.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
100 no's to get a yes.
Right, we're going to delve into each respective business in a little bit more detail. But before I do that, it'd be remiss of me if I didn't tell the audience that you're obviously a wonderful married couple. And I understand you met at college in the United States,
Met.
but didn't really spend time with each other. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about the college background and how that helped you become who you are today.
I feel like Mike should take this one. He's
Well, we both went to Babson College because we wanted to start businesses. We wanted to be entrepreneurs, and that's the best place to go for it.
Hmm.
They had the best program. They think they still do 20 years later.
And what made it so good? What was the piece?
Into it in your
Hmm.
first year. You're starting a business with a budget, and you got to run that and report on it and solve problems, and you need to do it well and turn a profit to get a good grade. I mean, it was very just focused on, this is what you're here to learn. Let's get into it. We didn't have as much broadness to our studies in terms of sciences and arts and social studies, and
Mm.
some of those things are passions of mine now. So, but you learn those at any time. What we went to school for was just really to learn the ins and outs of running a business.
And meet your wonderful partner along the way as well.
Yeah, well, actually, it's interesting you talked
We
about
lived
the
in the
fact.
same dorm. So anyone it's an Indian audience, so like it is a very Bollywood story. I have to admit. So we lived in the same dorm freshman year, and wherever you live freshman year kind of carried with you for your 4 years. Oh, you're from this dorm, you're from this dorm.
Mm.
So we were from the same dorm. Our circles of friends were very intertwined and intermingled. Some good friends we shared in common, and we sat right next to each other at graduation because our names are directly next to each other alphabetically. So all of that, we spoke maybe 3 words to each other in those 4 years, and then we met in Mumbai 8 years later, and
Yeah,
two, 3 years after that, we were married.
we were married. I was actually living in Geneva at the time when I met Mike. I was
Oh
visiting,
wow.
and we met through our mutual friends who are here.
Shout out to Kern.
Babson is kind of part of our story, but it's our mutual friends from there who we met that connected us. And yeah, I'm very happy with our college experience. As Mike said, they just throw you right into it. I think all of us who have gone to Babson it's very memorable that first year of whatever business you started with just imagine a bunch of 18, 19-year-old kids starting businesses, and you have like 40 people in one business trying to navigate this. Like your first year of freshman year, like you've moved
We
out
had
of your parents' house.
CEO, we had,
Yeah.
the different executive positions. And the other thing is, a lot of the classes are taught by just really impressive subject matter experts. Our entrepreneurship class were taught by entrepreneurs who founded some businesses, some big businesses. Our marketing classes were taught by brand managers from Unilever, or Procter and Gamble. So it was very hands on, and you just felt like, okay, this is something I wanted to learn. I'm learning it from someone who's done this and really knows what they're talking about. And yeah,
In today's society where social media is pushing, take control of your life and be an entrepreneur, and it's the best thing in the world, but they completely miss out the blood, sweat, and tears that goes
Yes.
behind it, the risk that sits behind it, the tiredness we're going to into your parenthood and having children alongside building all these
Yeah.
businesses, and we'll touch on that. But they forget all of those things, or if they do, they only clip them, because the authenticity behind feeling and experiencing those things don't come through.
yeah.
So what I'm hoping today is we get that, because both of you, of course, have lived and breathed that journey for the last 10 or so plus years. So Mike, I'm going to look at you a little bit more about MissMalini, because for me, as someone who is British-born Indian, my touching with Bollywood is tangential. It's through my wife, it's through my parents, it's through my family. But admittedly, I'm sitting in the UK watching Bollywood movies. I'm not ingratiated into the culture. But of course, you were when you moved here all those years ago, in 2008, 2009, I believe
Yeah.
you said. So when you started up MissMalini, was it an opportunity because you knew Malini, and you built sort of a business around your skill set and her skill set, or was it very much something that you wanted to pursue from early on?
No, it was. It was a business built around a personality.
Mm.
And we alliterated that to Miss Malini, and that was the name of her first blog. So the gap that there's a third partner too, who's now her husband, Naushad. So the three of us, and he's a Harvard MBA, Yale undergrad guy. So we were all just ambitious, wanted to build something, and we all
Mm.
kind of agreed and saw that gap that Bollywood drives this entire culture.
Mm.
It's everywhere you look, on every day, every scenario. Every product is endorsed by a celebrity, and everything is driven by celebrity culture. But then all the media and the news back then, there was nothing. It
Mm.
was oh, look at this one at the airport, and what kind of outfit was that, and oh, I thought this one was dating this one, and now they're sleeping. It was very tabloidy in the worst usage of the word, and no opinions, no voice. Uh, you'd see just a big photo dump. Everyone had the same photos, and we just dump the photos and write like one generic paragraph, and like
Mm.
that was it. So especially, I think for international fans of Bollywood, we were just speaking with one of your producers. There's really nothing before I think we came along that you could actually, oh, who is this? Tell me, what can I learn about them? What were they in? And you can go to Wikipedia, but like there was nothing, there was no voice telling what was happening,
Mm.
within the industry here. So that was the gap that we saw, and we built to that. We stayed true to that and just let that grow, built an audience, and then figured out how to monetize the audience.
Why is it important that, you know, forgive me for using the term, but you correct me if I'm wrong, the sort of, when people see gossip and sort of the tabloid elements, they see it sort of the lower form of journalism. And it's some opportunist. This is very much my experience in the UK. Some opportunist taking a photo and, as you say, writing, generic stuff on a big newspaper. You've professionalized that and made that far more accessible for people, as you say, international markets and fans now take Bollywood significantly more seriously, and you've helped that by improving the standards across the board. I don't think that's a light term, light sort of phrasing to use. Why is that important? Why is it important that someone or an entity like MissMalini reports with opinions, with a level of warmth, with a professionalism that goes beyond just what they're wearing and who they're dating?
I think because it's such an important part of pop culture
Mm.
in India, right? Like it's something that you care so much about. You go and see every movie that comes out with your favorite actor or actresses, and Bollywood movies, at least back then, came out quite a bit. There's a new one every week.
Mm.
So why wouldn't you want to think more and to talk more about this thing that so many people love, and to learn more about the filmmaking, or the how a film came together, and what the director was thinking, and how the casting came together. How was it a challenge for the actor or the actress? um we've been doing this for a long time, so we saw a lot of actors have their break, or have their first couple flops, and then hit a big one. And I think it's just that people want that human
Mm.
experience. That's what makes it authentic. If there's a voice and an opinion, if there's a regular person on the other side of the article or now video, um, sharing what they think and how they feel about something, then it's more real to the audience. Especially important in digital, it makes you feel like you're having a two-way conversation. The genesis of comment, like, and share,
Mm.
right? Uh, you're only gonna, you might just like something if it's just a nice picture. You might comment on it if you have an opinion on it, and if you feel something about it, if there's an emotional connect, then you might even share it multiple times, talk to your friends about it.
Mm.
So one piece of content, one article, one video can take on its own life, and people are discussing it and sharing it. This is all very common and non-exciting now in the world of social media and short videos. But yeah, back then I think that was just the the big gap, is that there was no one with a voice, and we had an amazing personality in Malini, and we just went for it.
Mm. That last point you mentioned about this being sort of pre really social media coming out and really being preference and sorry prevalent in people in society, because that like, comment, share, as you say, these are just a couple of buttons right now, but back then, completely different field.
Yeah.
So did you know at the time you were contributing to some important cultural elements, or was it just head down, let's feel our way through the business, let's understand our way through the business, and just build it out from there.
We did. We realized that we were. I mean, audience. You can't fake an audience. Well, these days you probably could, but back then, before AI at least, and before there were more bots than humans on the internet, um, the audience tells you you're growing your following. This was only organic back then. There were no hacks and pay for followers. It was only organic. So you knew we went from 1,000 to 10,000. Wow, we're doing something right. We went from 10,000 to 100,000. It's like, wow, this is actually real. Maybe we can make a business out of this, or maybe we can grow this into a bigger business. And then we were validated by all the new media platforms that came into India. We were always one of their first calls to help them either test or launch their products in India. So right when Facebook was first here, when they first launched Facebook groups, we did one of the first ones. When Instagram came with Instagram Live, we were the first Instagram Live. We were the first Snapchat Discover account. First, second, third. I mean, in the first batch.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So that told us that we were doing something right. That these multi-billion-dollar companies are identifying us as one of the outlets that has pulse of the young people, the millennials,
And what are you
Gen
most
Z.
proud of during your time at MissMalini?
I think building a brand that still lives on 15 years later, but a little more than that would be the people that I hired and that we hired and trained and built a really good, strong company culture. And now there are no less than 100, 200 people in important positions at every media and social media platform you can imagine. Um, and a lot of those people share a common kind of start to their career as MissMalini. But a lot of people say like, yeah, I was made at MissMalini, or I got my chops at MissMalini. And that carried weight and helped people get jobs. And 10 years after we founded the business, you had a big wig from Meta. Oh, you were at MissMalini? Like, okay, you know what you're doing. So I think that was a good big source of pride, just to see everyone that we helped grow, to see their success.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you often give a lot to the business, to the industry, and if you're lucky enough, to the world, where you build something of legacy. And as you say, people got their chops there, but you did that. That's your structure, obviously alongside your other co-founders, alongside a team. But
Yeah.
you were still very instrumental within that. So, I'm one of the messages that we have sort of on our channel is to think of entrepreneurship as giving, not sort of taking from the market. You're selling a product, you're taking money out of it and doing your own thing. It's very much about giving back to either in a service or in a product or whatever you're doing. You're giving back to the market, and then you'll get more.
And you need support networks and partners that are okay with you giving all of your time and all of your mind space and effort. And when you're in a marriage and then starting to have a family, our first child was a fur baby, so we got a little bit of practice with
Yes.
a dog before we had our daughter. But yeah, no, I like how you said that. It's I think it's a lot more giving than getting, but it's a gratifying give.
Absolutely. And Sanskruti, Mike's story is, of course, extremely well known to you. Is there any familiarities you're seeing within your own business, or do you see your journey as quite separate to Mike's?
So of course there's overlapping similarities, oftentimes just like navigating through the complexity of just the Indian culture and Mumbai in general. Just I mean, I'm just thinking we just like from our personal life and our work life, we've had so many adventures together that are just wild. So this is very different, but this is it was crazy. But we were actually appreciating being in Mumbai. Um, And this maybe gives you an idea of our dynamic as a couple and the marriage, but like,
Uh-oh.
but we opened the INOX Jewelry store
Mm.
in March 2023. We go to the US, summer break for our daughter, spending time with the family. I specifically remember coming back July 31st, 2023. August 3rd, there was an attempted armed robbery attempt at
Oh
my
gosh.
store. And I remember we were driving by and I saw someone walk in. My staff was there, I wasn't there. And then we just got home and they called me and they're like, someone just came and threatened us with a gun, but he ran away. I'm like, was anyone hurt? They're like, no, we're all fine. I'm like, okay. Of course, Mike is like, what? What?
Yeah.
Jumps into action. I'm like, I'm going, like, it's fine. I'll handle it. He goes, what do you mean you're going? No, I'm coming with you. I'm like, all right. We go in. Police are on their way. The Bandra West Police Station. First of all, I have to give a shout out to them. They're incredible. Um, they were there. It felt like, I feel like it was so exciting for them. Like, what happened? An armed robbery attempt. Um, and basically, nothing happened. And I'm trying to convince the cops. And I'm like, it must have been some college kid, a stupid dare. Like, nothing was taken. No one was hurt. No shots were fired. But they took it very seriously because he came with an armed, like a threat with a gun.
Mm.
And within 24 hours, guy was caught.
Wow.
They worked so fast. Of course, my husband is so excited because they did a sting operation. He's like, please, can I go? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, what is this? And then
I would
I
have said exactly the
Impressive.
same, Mike. I
They're
would
super impressive.
but but I mean, yes, we've definitely had our adventures. So it's not business related, but just I felt the need to share this anecdote so you kind of get an idea of how this is because he's ready to like go for it and be like exciting. And I literally had to reason with him and say, you have a child. No, we are not going to be participating in it. Let the cops do their work. But we're very
Oh, that was
impressed
so
with
much
it.
fun. I was about to say, as business owners, we go through so many challenges, but I think that's an extra one on top.
Oh
I
yeah,
think many people.
I literally, I was telling, I was asking the cops because they also were entertained by us. Because now looking back on it, because my Hindi it's good, but they can tell I'm not from here. But I use funny idioms and everything, and then I'm just like, I asked them, I'm like, the guy, like he came from South Bombay, you found him, and I'm like. पूरा इधर ही मेरा ही दुकान मिला टिपक पड़ने के लिए, which translates to like he literally came from so far and he only found my store to like try and attempt this stunt.
Actually, talking about that, so because you're both coming from the US, finding yourself in India, cultural norms, the language. I mean, so many things must have been sort of foreign and different to you. How did you overcome those when you were here?
I'm a textbook example of why India is an amazing opportunity for any English speakers who want to come abroad or maybe do a business abroad because you get by in English.
Hmm.
My Hindi is still pretty poor 15 years later, but you don't, maybe depending on your location, depending on your industry, but by and large, a lot of business, can be done in English. And if you're observant and, learn a few things early on, you can really get by. You could even communicate with people who don't speak English.
Hmm.
But it's English. There's always a few English words speckled in, no matter who you're talking to. So from that perspective, that's the only reason I stayed here and had the comfort to start a business and to build my career here, uh, because it was easier not much of a barrier to entry in that, as opposed to like when Sanskruti was in Switzerland. It's the first thing she had to do is learn French. You won't be able to talk to anyone, do any business
Yep.
if you don't learn French. From that perspective, it was pretty easy. And then I was very blessed to fall into a cool happening social scene,
Hmm.
which it was tangential to Bollywood and the entertainment scene. I mentioned my partner Malini was already an RJ, so she had, she was always on the guest list. We very rarely paid for a new bar or restaurant that was opening. It was, we were in that early batch of the influencers before that was a word. The influencers, the tastemakers, and I was not one of those things, but I was friends with them, so I got to partake and participate. From a business standpoint, though, yeah, there is. I mean, this is if you're going to operate a business anywhere other than your home country, you have to learn your way around that,
Mm.
and there are certain things that you can and can't do. I mean, we were in media, we were in again entertainment, so it wasn't as serious as in politics or news, but you know, freedom of the press is different in different countries, and laws about offending people are different in different places. I think you're dealing with some of this in the UK,
Absolutely, yeah.
right? A lot more than it was 10 years ago,
Oh
probably,
yes, yeah.
right? So I think a lot of countries in the world are dealing with these things and
Mm.
figuring these things out. But you have to be cognizant of those things. You have to, we really wanted to be independent. I'll give you an example. Like we're progressive, pretty fair to say. We're in entertainment. We're,
Yeah.
in those scenes. We were very early supporters of LGBT community in India. And when we first started, I believe it was still technically illegal. And then there was a big decision that the Indians will know better. 377, I think, is coming to mind. But whatever that big case was, and
Mm.
then for the first time it was legal, and then they went backwards, and then they like partially repealed it. And so there were certain times where it's like, okay, I want to support this. Can I support this? Do I have to be worried or afraid to support this?
Mm.
We never compromised. We never got too controversial, and we made enough friends and contacts within different bodies and authorities to
Mm.
know what we had to be careful of. But yeah, I think you hear these stories of people that go and get into trouble. I've been here 16 years. I will always consider myself a guest in this country.
Mm.
I'm a guest. I live here. I love here. I grew my family here. Built my business here. I'm still a guest. It's not
Mm.
my country. I have to adapt and assimilate myself into how things work here.
Mm.
I think if you have that mindset, then you figure it out and you'll be fine.
I think that's very wise because one of the biggest trends in the UK right now is that people are are leaving to go to other countries because of a variety of reasons, mainly tax, some cultural elements. You touched on sort of freedom of speech elements that are
Mm.
are adding to a number of reasons why people want to leave. And one of the main destinations for Brits has been Dubai.
Mm.
Mm.
And the main discussion I have with my clients, I mean, once we've done the tax analysis and we've said, this is how you physically do it and introduce them to lawyers and all that nonsense, I kind of ask them, are you ready for this cultural shift? Because you can't do all
Yeah.
the same things you're doing in the UK as you are in Dubai. Realize that you are in a different country with different cultural norms, with different laws.
Yeah.
Um, in this particular case, you're going off a democracy to a sort of benevolent
Monarchy. Yeah.
monarchy. So you've got to really understand where you can tread and where you can't. And
Yeah.
it is a country that is run by Emiratis, and they are the citizens of
Yeah.
that country.
The only citizens. Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So respect that. Don't fight with it. If you want to go to that country and enjoy all the great things it has to offer you, as you say,
Yeah.
respect the place that you're going to.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I like how you articulated that because it's a very similar way that we try to articulate with our clients. Realistically, if you are shifting to another country, respect that. And if you can learn the language and be part of the culture, then even better.
Yeah.
But as you say, do you think you'll always be a guest here, or do you think that over time?
I don't. I live very locally, and I'm treated as a Mumbaikar, and I'm pretty authentic to that. And I don't hate on the country ever, and I never felt like an outsider.
Mm.
I'm a foreigner. I'm still, yeah, I think I'll always be a guest here, but that doesn't mean it can't be your home.
And Indians, I mean, they're extremely welcoming, very friendly people and country. So the hospitality here is always thought of as the best in the
Well, it
world.
depends. Different people, different experiences.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I'm hoping, given you've been here for 16 years, that your experience has been
Yes.
very
Good.
positive. Having been, British Indian, obviously I look Indian. My family's from India. They've deep roots there. But my grandfather emigrated in the late 50s, 60s.
Hmm.
So I've got roots in the UK.
Right.
So as people can probably tell from my accent, I'm very much a Londoner, and my Hindi is compared to Mike's is
It's
is
better.
terrible.
It's better. Trust me.
Mike's, I'm sure, the fact that you're on the scale is important. My wife would certainly say I'm hopeless, I think is the nice way of putting it. But other than the language, so I'm trying to understand the cultural norms and trying to understand things. But because of the way I look, people often assume if I'm walking around India, they'll start speaking to me in Hindi.
Right.
They'd assume all these things, as they should naturally.
Right.
Have you ever experienced that? And how did you sort of overcome some of the cultural challenges you might have faced?
So I actually wanted to backtrack and touch on this guest in
Oh,
India
please, yeah.
country. I mean, the sentiment that Mike has. What was really interesting is when after I was done with my whole adventure in Switzerland, I told my parents that, oh, I want to just try out India for like a few months. Let's see. I had not met like we were not dating, like whatever. I knew him,
Mm.
you know. Um
Planted the seed.
and I came and my dad is like, Sanskruti, do not post anything on social media. This is India, it's not America. It's like, I want you home at this time. I'm like, what? I'm like, I've traveled the world by myself. Like, you didn't know where I was, in what country. And all of a sudden, at like the age of 29, it's like so much control. Even
Mm.
though they'd be in New York, they were freaking out because in their heads, they think of India as what it was like 30 years prior to that point in
Okay.
time, or like 35 years prior, like whenever they left India,
Mm.
right? But to my dad's credit, I do have to say that he did give me very sound advice in terms of, I was always very vocal about
Mm.
my opinions of the US government or policies and everything, which of course my parents know about. But they were like, don't, it's not the same rules in other countries,
Mm.
right? Which is extremely wise because, like I said, Mike and I are guests over here, and there are a lot of amazing things about this country, like a ton. I think there's more, in my opinion, more positive than negative.
Mm.
Because one thing we also have to keep in mind is that India is such a young country that, like, India only got its independence in 1947. It's not a fair comparison when you compare it to the West that are much older, right?
Mm.
So I do get frustrated from a business point of view that sometimes I thought something that was a law and I'm compliant with it with my business, and then they change it and I'm like, wait, what, when did this happen? There's no
Or
big
you're
notification.
compliant and you still have to
Yeah,
a
but
little extra.
Yeah.
yeah, but it's still, I'm just like, wait, when did this happen? They're like, oh, it happened 3 weeks ago. I'm like, oh, okay. But this comes with the territory.
Mm.
But in terms of my experience of coming to India, I know Hindi. I learned Hindi by watching Bollywood movies in New York. I have always, as a child, been very fascinated by different cultures. I liked studying anthropology. I remember a few times when one of my childhood friends, she would just like surprise visit me, and my whole family would be out that time, and I'd just be sitting at home watching like random Chinese movies and Korean movies with subtitles because I was just so fascinated by just languages, cultures. So I guess, naturally, after I graduated college, started working in the fashion industry, I was like itching to get out and have international experiences.
Mm.
I had even applied to the US Peace Corps. I got in. I was supposed to move to Nicaragua,
Wow.
but my family needed me at that time, so the timing didn't work. So, Mike, that's our plan when we retire, They told me the
Oh.
that your
It's a
application.
lifetime, right? It's
Yeah,
good for
they said
life.
they said the
It's a
application
cool
is
option to
good.
have.
The application's good for, what did they say, 70 years.
Oh, wow.
So I
Okay,
said,
we're still good.
I'm like, so if I get married and my husband comes along, they're like, yeah, it's fine, he can come along. I'm like, okay, cool. That's what they told me at the time. We'll see. But I came here. Um, I had a very positive experience in Geneva.
Mm.
The Swiss were really friendly. So I came in with that same kind of spoiled mindset that I would have that same experience here. But I think because I look Indian, I'm
Mm.
ethnically Indian, I speak the language, but I'm not really from here. So I think for me, my experience was definitely challenging. It was very hard for me to make friends. And to feel truly accepted. I think that really switched for me the moment we had our child. And by that time, I had been in India probably for like 6, 7 years at that
Mm.
point. So I think what happened is then I met new people and they just kind of assumed that I just went away to college, and they got my international education outside of Mumbai, but then I came back. So I think now I just kind of roll with it. Like I just let people think that, sometimes it comes up that, oh, your family's over there and this and that, but they're like, oh, but now you're one of us. So it's nice.
I like
Wonderful.
doing that too. I pass people. Most people assume I'm Indian or NRI or Punjabi or Parsi. But yeah, I just roll with it. Whatever.
It's best to do so.
Yeah.
But you've mentioned your wonderful daughter. You mentioned your fur baby. Let's get into that because the fur baby came first,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And that was 2000 or
14.
2014.
So Mike just called me one day.
Is actually outside of the MissMalini's first office, right here, Santa Cruz.
And he tells me, he's like, oh, Sans, there's a pup I want you to meet. And I thought, okay, it must be like some client's dog or like a celebrity's dog, something cute.
Mm.
He's like, where are you? Are you far? No, I could come meet a puppy. Of course, I'll come meet a puppy. I have nothing better to do. I come in and he's playing with this cute little Indian stray dog. And he tells me that, well, what do you think? I'm like, what do you mean? What do I think? It's a dog. Like,
Mm.
and he's like, well, we should take her home. I'm like, what? Are you crazy? And then he's like, this
You
is your
left out the
chance.
point where you've been
I
saying
did.
that you wanted a dog, like every day for a month prior. When are you gonna get a dog? Want a dog? So I was like, okay, I found a dog. This is your dog.
Yeah. So the part that I, also mentioned that I wanted a travel size dog so I don't have to leave the dog alone when I go back home, which of course is going to happen more often than not. But as you know, the Indian strays, they grow and they're full size and they cannot fit under the car, under the airplane seat that is compliant. But we ended up with this beautiful Indie. She was around when our daughter was born. Sadly, she did pass in August of 2020.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. I mean, they're not meant to be with us forever, which really sucks, but we're really grateful for the time we had with her.
Mm.
And then fast forward a few years later, my daughter and Mike are asking for a second dog.
Oh no. Are they going to
So
win?
they
Well, we
already
won
won. They
already
Oh.
won. They won.
2 years ago.
Yeah, now we have a Coco who's very sweet and she's very well behaved. She's a much lower maintenance dog than the first one.
For anyone who's in India, any foreigners or anyone like the domestic, the stray breed here, they're awesome dogs. They're the best dogs. They're smart, they're personable, they're so friendly because they live around a billion people. So that, they're very well socialized, they're smart, they're energetic. Like, enough with the designer breeds. So many little babies right here. They're great dogs.
Oh, that's amazing.
Mm.
Have you seen sort of dogs being instrumental in your daughter's sort of growth and her sort of
Yes.
growing up as well?
Absolutely,
And sort of the
absolutely.
interactions that she's had?
Especially as an only child,
Mm.
which our daughter is. That's her bestie, right? And all the generic things. It teaches responsibility, makes them more curious about nature and animals in general.
Hmm.
And it's just great when your kid is a dog lover. You never have to worry about, them freaking out at someone else's house,
Of
or
course, yeah.
can't go
Mm.
there because we're afraid of dogs, or if anything, we have to like scale her back a little bit because she'll run towards any dog that she sees.
Having your wonderful daughter alongside, I mean, this was 2018, so you're building your businesses.
Yep.
Miss Money is skyrocketing. Sanskruti, you're building your businesses. I mean, how do you fit sort of being a parent with raising a wonderful daughter?
Well, that sounds answer. Leading up to it, I know was a tough time for us when Sanskruti was pregnant, and I should have been helping more. That was the time where my business was at one of its peaks.
Hmm.
We're building up to raising institutional VC money for the first time,
Hmm.
and everything that went with that, and just everything to get it in the door. And then once we got the money, all these new expectations and everything that came with that. So that was a very busy time at a very important time at home. So yeah, that was a tough phase. But uh, since then, as Sans will talk, this is where some of the benefits to living in India really kick in.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I also need to echo the fact that, like, I don't think we could do any of this without our family support for both sides, his parents, my siblings. Even though they're not in India, they're in the United States. But when I was pregnant, my mom did come to India often. My mom was very irritated at me because she was like, "Well, what do you mean you're having a baby in Mumbai? Like, the plan is for you to have the baby in New York." In the Indian culture, usually when the wife has the child or the daughter of the family, she goes to the parents' house. And
Hmm.
usually it's for like the first, so like the last month or 2 months, you're usually
Hmm.
with at your mom's place. And then the 40 days after birth, because the whole concept is that, yeah, your daughter gets a chance to relax, have the baby peacefully, no stress. And the 40 days later, she's healing, and getting her strength back, and the
Hmm.
family is able to take care of the baby as well. So that's the logic. And then my mom, with this expectation, and I'm like, "Mom, I'm not married to a culturally Indian guy. Like, this
Hmm.
does not compute." you know he's in the middle of all this madness with work. Then it's like his baby, his first child. He's gonna freak out. How is he gonna be in back in time? Like, what if I go into labor? He'll just have to hop on a flight. He may miss the birth of the child. I'm like, this is just not practical for us. So
Hmm.
then she had to change the plans, rearrange everything, because she had booked the nurse to help me out in New York and everything. And I said, "I'm sorry, but we just can't make it happen." And she's going to be
Hmm.
arriving in Mumbai.
So it sounds like it was a bit of a journey, going through in 2018, giving birth to your wonderful
Yeah.
daughter. I mean, let's fast forward. You've given birth, and you're in India, and of course, it's your family is supporting you, but you have Mike's still running his business. He has to spend that VC money. You're at home, obviously, trying to recover from giving birth, and of course, getting back to a bit of normalcy, but with your daughter. How do you balance everything?
Well, the plan was to take 6 months off,
Hmm.
but of course, life never happens as planned. And that was around the turning point that the INOX Jewelry brand was starting to take off as well. So I couldn't let that go. And I just remember I moved my office to my home. So I had people coming home to work from home while I had a small newborn
Wow.
and figuring this out.
And that was not a big house. That was not a big apartment.
No, and I literally moved everyone home, so I was able to try and figure out the feeding schedule, go
Hmm.
in, come back out, work. Um, so again, life doesn't go as planned, you know, but we make it happen. We roll with it.
I can't fathom how you did it. I admire you, genuinely and truly, and all mothers that try and balance both of those things. I mean, it's unbelievable. And a mic, of course, there is to support. But if I'm lucky enough to be blessed with a child with my wonderful wife, I don't know how. I'm constantly thinking, how can I support her? How can I try and be at home for her? Wake up in the early morning and try and do the feeding. All those kind of. How do I share the burden? But fundamentally, there is a reliance on the mother to do certain things. So what pushed you through that? What motivated you to build INOX alongside raising a child?
A couple things happen. I think once you become a mom, I don't know what happens in our bodies, but there is no tiredness anymore
Oh wow.
because you're just like, my child needs me. You're just
Just do
That's
it.
it. There's like something, like some switch. I don't know what it is, but the moment you hear that cry or you hear a small sound, you're like, what? You know, um, that happens. And then I guess for me personally, to keep growing and building the business is to show my daughter
Mm,
that, hey, anything's possible. You got to believe in yourself.
mm. And let's talk about that. So we're sitting in 2018-19. INOX is taking off. Talk to me about that process. I mean, so you opened your store in 23. What was happening in those 4 years? Obviously, COVID
So
was
basically, when
important.
I first started INOX, I thought the smartest thing to do is to get into all the marketplaces.
Hmm.
So I got into Amazon, Flipkart. I really tried hard and managed to break into Mintra. So these are all Indian marketplaces that, you're like, okay, we got it. And there was a point where we were literally in every marketplace. And they take their commissions and everything. But what was happening is that there was so much theft and fraud that I was dealing with. And I genuinely believe that I don't think I was getting orders from genuine customers. There was something else going on.
Mm.
I don't know what it was, but it was not normal. And then it got to a point where I'm like, this is stupid. I'm going to shut everything down.
Oh wow.
I am just shutting all this down. This is a massive waste of time, energy, resources. And and we shut it down. I just shut everything down. It freed up so much mental bandwidth. And then at that time, simultaneously, we were consistently optimizing our search engines. So SEO, we were being consistent. And then we got a lucky break in like 2019. Some woman who was a stylist, she found us on Google. She
Hmm.
was looking to style that rapper Gully Boy.
Wow.
And she used to work for GQ. And she was panicking and found us. And she came to our office. She selected some stuff for the shoot. And she said, oh my God, she's like, your stuff is so great. It's so amazing. Is it okay if I pass your contact to GQ India? I'm like, of course it's okay. Like, yes, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was like, but how did you find us? She goes, I just Googled men's jewelry, men's jewelry in India, men's jewelry in Mumbai, and you guys just popped up organically. And she's like, your products are such good quality. She's like, do you know that when I worked at GQ, we had a person who gets on a flight, flies to the UK to source this quality jewelry, bring it back to India, they do the shoot, and then they go back to the UK
Oh,
the next
wow.
month. So now they don't have to do it. So I'm really sorry to the guy who was getting to go to the UK every month. I'm really sorry. But
And 6
that's
years later, you can count on one hand the number of A-list Bollywood actors who she hasn't styled.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think there is anyone.
I said one hand.
I
I
don't
was
think-
about to ask, what are you most proud of within what you've achieved in INOX? But it sounds like that.
Yes, but I think in terms of what I'm really, really proud of is just the fact that we've, just being consistent. I think that's the main biggest takeaway as an entrepreneur
Mm.
because there are times where you're just like, oh my God, what am I doing this for? I'm not seeing results. I'm not seeing anything, and it's very easy to get bogged down
Mm.
by this. And I think consistency is something that's very hard for people to kind of just stay on the path. And but also with that, there's also a caveat is that you need to figure out at what point is it smart to stay consistent versus pivoting.
Mm.
right? As I did in my journey, I pivoted because I'm like, these marketplaces, they're only interested in making money from themselves and taking money out of the sellers' pockets. I'm like, this is not worth it for my product category. Of course, it's great for non-returnable goods. It's great for electronics where they're, and those are probably bigger businesses for them. So I'm like, this is just not a strategic, smart fit. So you're constantly, as an entrepreneur, at least in my world, looking at how to position yourself, how to be strategic, what is a good fit,
Mm.
and being able to have the guts to take that call and pull the plug as well. So I'm proud of being able to, just staying with the plan when you have to stay with the plan, but also being able to identify when this is not serving its greater purpose
Mm.
and is kind of a distraction.
One of the amazing reasons, and I mentioned this earlier in the show, of why I like speaking to successful people, is that you make it sound so easy. And my job is to try to extract all the challenges that you face, because it sounds like, oh, I was a mom and I raised a kid and I also had a dog and I had to overcome cultural challenges and I just built this massive business where loads of celebrities loads of male celebrities are being styled by my jewelry, and I just built one of the largest and culturally transformative businesses in India. I mean, it's just, I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this. These are just facts, and I admire your humility. You haven't. I've been trying to big you up, but you're trying to be like, yeah, well, we did this, and I think that's a really important quality that comes through from both of you, is that you're both extremely humble, very, very aware of what you have achieved, and you will put it out there. You won't dial that down, but what you'll dial down is the kind of what sometimes you see as the sort of bravado and arrogance, but you're certainly not that at all. What I get from you both is this calmness, this ability to deal with armed robberies. And Mike, I think you could take the guy yourself, to be honest with you. I would back you all the way. So if you don't mind me sharing that, because what I sense is that a lot of entrepreneurs are very different, and characters, of course, very different, but there are some principles that stay. And as you said, consistency, Sanskriti, is arguably the most important thing.
Yeah.
Just as you say, you can pivot, you can do other things, but just showing up every day, making a decision that you need to make, like shutting things down and starting again a bit later, you can take those decisions, but being consistent is a must. And I admire you both. So thank you for sharing your story.
You called out my biggest word, which is calmness.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
think that's probably the number one thing. If you're leading a company, you have a team. That's most of the big blow ups and things that I can remember over all the years. Former employees, many of whom I'm friends with now, like, I still don't know how you stayed calm when this client went crazy, or when this shoot went to hell, or this client backed out of a big deal. And running a business, every year that you run that business, a million things are going to happen. Like, if you're hyper and reacting, and or worse, overreacting to every little thing, I think that's how people get burned out, to the point where you just have to quit. Or worse, they go through mental issues or challenges because the stress and the pressures are too much. And I see that. We saw that, both saw that. But you just gotta take your punches, right? Take your punches, roll with them. And if you're the calming presence in the room, then your team reacts to that. And everyone does better work when they're calm instead of hyper.
It's something that I'm very conscious of in the office place, when certainly I'm in that particular office at that particular time, because people feed off you as the MD or the CEO, or as a senior leader. People feed off your energy, and I learned this the hard way. I mean, there was just one time I was a little bit tired in the office, and I was probably a little bit sort of short with someone, and for the rest of the day, no one would talk to me in the team, and I was like, well, come on, guys, like, talk to me at least. I mean, I know we're literally next to each other. And my secretary just pointed out, oh, you're a little bit short there. We just thought you were in a bad mood, so we didn't want to talk to you. And I went, yeah, but I'm the nicest guy like ever.
Right.
Well, I'm very patient, very calm. Why wouldn't you think that was something that is going to happen for the rest of the day? It's just that particular thing. A little bit tired, worked late last night. It happens. And they went, oh, okay. Now that we know that, the whole office started to buzz again a little bit. And I realized, obviously, through that little short, where I made a little mistake, I realized the whole team really feeds off you as a leader. And if you're emotional, either which way, if you're in a mood, if you're feeling a bit annoyed, it could be something completely separate. It could be something personal. Obviously, I never have arguments with my wife. She's perfect and amazing, but maybe we have a couple of discussions and something filters into the office. Then that does permeate, and that does become sort of an energy and a vibe within the office that can change the course of what needs to be done that day. And you both know better than anyone that every day is super important and every day needs to be impactful. And if it's not, then that results in something else later, which involves people's jobs, it involves cash flow, it involves real material life things that you can't have slip. So if you need to put on a brave face sometimes and keep the personal stuff aside, you've got to do it.
And if you're calm and soft-spoken on a daily basis, then when you do need to react to something, if you do need to raise your voice to something, it'll stop the room. Like, oh, is Mike screaming? Oh my God, someone must have really effed up.
Yeah, let's prioritize. Let's get it done, and it carries more weight. We ask all of our guests one question, and you've had a little bit of time, hopefully, to prep or to think about it. And that question is: if your 18-year-old self had a conversation with your 80-year-old self, what would that conversation be about?
Well, my 18-year-old self would ask my 80-year-old selves, did we go on adventures? Was it fun? Was the ride fun? And I think my 80-year-old self, absolutely.
That's wonderful, Mike.
Mine are very different. I think my 18-year-old self would ask, what's your job? How much money did you make? How many girls did you get with? It's like I think that's what it would have been.
Sanskruti closure is.
Yeah.
I think that would have been top of mind of what 18-year-old self was thinking about and what was important, and making money, and that's what dominates your thoughts. 80-year-old self talking to my 18-year-old self would be like, what do you actually care about? Like, what are your actual goals? What are you doing with the family? What, like, you think once you have fun in your 20s and maybe your 30s as well, and then you start thinking about, what actually is your legacy? What are you leaving behind? What, what are you teaching your kids? What are those values? I think, I think the 80-year-old self would try to convince my 18-year-old self to focus on what's important.
And here's a road question, because you're the first couple we've interviewed on the Everyday Empires podcast. What do you think the four of you would talk about? The 1880 and your 1880-year-old version.
Well, the 18-year-old Sanskruti would have not liked the 18-year-old Mike, because that was still
No, definitely
the
not.
rambunctious.
And he would not have liked me because I was like liberal, Democrat, like, very free spirited, like, oh, let's just say I was very New York, he's Connecticut, two very different places.
Like 30 miles apart. My 30-year-old self would have never believed my 20-year-old self that you're going to be in India, of all places, and be working in Bollywood at that. that that you would prioritize and take more pride in what you've built and the people that you've influenced more than how much money you've made or anything like that. So yeah, I think at least in myself, they'd be very two drastically different people. Wouldn't recognize each other, I don't think.
Well, I think that's the beauty of going on your journeys, right? Is that hopefully your 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old, etc., would not recognize the previous decade's person. They would just grow and hopefully do more things and have more adventures and achieve loads more. And you get to an age like 80 where one would think you'd slow down quite a bit and you would look back across what you've achieved and the legacies that you have.
No,
And
no, we have to do Peace Corps. That's still
oh, of
pending.
course.
Yes, that's
Sorry,
still
Mike. You'll be sitting
He
in
said-
Nicaragua with with Sanskruti. Maybe we can have a follow-up interview
Yeah,
in
we'll work on
a
my
few years' time.
Spanish.
But thank you very, very much, guys. I really, really appreciate your time.
Thank
Your
you.
journeys are fascinating. I'm looking forward to reading more about how you develop and grow, because this is just partway through. And I wish you all the best. And hopefully in a few years' time, we can get you back on and you can tell us all about all the extra things you've been doing over the last few years.
That'd be cool.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.